Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Gwent, and today we're playing the new Seesaw seasonal event, which is an alternate game mode in which at the end of each player's turn, odd-powered units will get damaged by 1, and even-powered units will get boosted by 1. Today we are playing what looks to be an extremely powerful deck that we have never tried before, so let's go give it a look. So today we'll be playing a Northern Realm Stockpile Siege deck that focuses on dealing lots of damage to our opponent's cards, and in particular, keeping them on an automatic power, because that way, at the end of their turn, those units will get damaged by Seesaw. So that means we have all the big siege engines like Raffard's Vengeance, Foltest Pride, War Chariot, Battering Ram, and Reinforced Ballista, all of which give us lots of damage, along with Siege Tower, which is a siege engine but gives us boosts rather than damage, and of course the Siege Scenario, which helps us get even more siege engines on the board and even more damage with Bombardment. Then outside of the siege engines themselves, we have other cards that benefit from getting siege engines, or cards that have cooldowns, like King Henselt, which we can use to help us get Raffard's Vengeance, or Foltest Pride, maybe even War Chariot, Radovid, which gives us more leader ability charges so that we can use our siege engines more often, Rayla, who may not be a siege engine, but actually functions pretty similarly to one because she has damage on a cooldown. And because Rayla starts on an automatic power, that means she'll get damaged at the end of the turn in which we play her. But then, on our next turn, when she's on 4 power, we can play the Temerian Drummer next to her, and that way she'll get boosted from Seesaw and the Temerian Drummer at the end of our turn, getting her onto 6 power, and continue to keep her on an even amount of power so that she will continue to get boosted by 2 every turn. That way she's inspired and gets that extra damage on her order ability. We also have reinforcements to give us even more siege engines, Siege Master, which can get summoned onto the board when we have it in our hand and we play a siege engine and helps us improve our cooldowns, Griffin Witcher, which is basically like another mini Rayla because it has an order ability on cooldown, not a siege engine, not a soldier, so not as many synergies, but it does still work well with the other things we're trying to do in this deck, namely damage. Redanian Archer, another soldier to help set up your crew abilities and give you even more damage. Seesaw will eventually get rid of its armor unless you happen to have a Temerian Drummer on the board ready to go as soon as you play this, in which case, much like we were talking about with Rayla, you can keep this on an even amount of power, so that way it doesn't lose its armor and it continues to gain charges to deal even more damage. Then we have Rivian Pikeman, which, if we get the Death Blow ability on that order, reduces the cooldown of all other units on that row, siege engines, Rayla, and Griffin Witchers included, setting us up for a ton more damage. Then lastly, we have another couple of bombardments directly in our deck because we are going to have a lot of siege engines, so it's going to give us a lot of damage. So there's a look at the deck, and like I said, it is all about loading up on as much damage as you can from all of the siege engines and other damaging order cooldown ability cards, and either keeping your opponent's units on an odd amount of power so that they'll always get damaged by Seesaw, or just removing them altogether. So let's go see it in action. Alright, so going up against Northern Realms here, and we'll go first. Okay, so notably not seeing Henselt, however, since we are going first here, we do have our stratagem, so we can use that to get him if we would like. We have Raffard's Vengeance in hand, and that would have been one of the cards we'd use, Henselt that is, in order to get Raffard's Vengeance, but maybe Foltest Pride instead in that case. I like Black Rayla, like Amphibious Assault. Not necessarily sure we're in desperate need of a Temerian Drummer here, but yeah, I think we're going to be focusing on playing most of our siege engines in the melee row, not in the range row. So Redanian Archer is also not necessarily a great option for us right now. There's Siege. Okay, so yep, we'll definitely take that. Okay, so I think might want to save this for round 3. What do we do? Maybe go Henselt round 1, but Siege round 3? Maybe that's the right plan? Either way, I mean, we do have Amphibious Assault to get us more engines on the board as well. So, what if we go... Oh, actually, yeah, Temerian Drummer next to Black Rayla is what we're going to want to do to get her inspired. So let's play her first. We'll use our stratagem to get Henselt. And probably dump... I mean, it would be nice to have enough siege engines in hand to trigger Siege the scenario, if needed, but... I think we still dump you. Okay, so she's going to get reduced down to a 4 because she's on an odd number here, but that means on her next turn, we can play the Temerian Drummer next to her, and she will suddenly get boosted by 2 every turn. So that will keep her inspired. And why don't we poke this Curiosity Guard, because that way it'll be on an odd number, which will keep it stuck there at 5 power until they use a leader ability charge or find some other outside source of boosting. Or they'll just, wow, yeah, they'll immediately move her. Aggressive move. Would have thought they'd be looking to at least wait a little bit before doing that so they could get a little more value out of Curiosity Guard. Then again, of course, we did poke it and mess with it a bit. This is looking at an awful lot with King Belhun, like some of the previous Seesaw decks that we've done in the past, which means expecting to see a whole lot of boosts from them, not much in the way of damage. That is the key difference between what we are probably going to be looking to do versus what they're probably looking to do. We're going the damage route, they're going the boosting route. So, timing of Raffard's Vengeance. Obviously, if we want to play it, we want to play it early. So, is that one? That might be one we save for round 3 as well. So then what? It's Henselt, and it's Foltest Pride. Unfortunately, not going to be as good with Rayla moved, but I think we probably still go for that. It's pretty aggressive. It is pretty aggressive. And we go here. And at least at the moment, it's not a great target right now, but we'll damage you, sure. And technically, yeah, we could have gotten crew immediately. We put it in between these two, but we want to make sure that Foltest stays alive for the moment. And of course, we'd like to flank Henselt with siege engines. So, probably looking to go... I mean, Griffin Witcher would be the one we'd put on the right side of Foltest Pride. Then again, you're not a soldier. So, technically it'd be Rivian Pikeman in that case, I suppose. So, why don't we go Reinforced Ballista here. And then we'll poke Belhun to get him on an odd number. Again, we want to try to keep as many of their cards on an odd number as possible. Because that way, they are not getting the double boosts from the combination of Seesaw and Leader Ability, or Seesaw and Temerian Drummer, because that is the entire point of their deck. And that's why they'll use a Leader Ability charge on Belhun there. So, now, speaking of boosting even-powered cards, that is going to happen with the Reinforced Ballista now. And now would be a good time to get a soldier next to Foltest Pride. I'm thinking that's probably going to be what we do with Amphibious Assault, but what would we like that soldier to be? Unfortunately, Radovid is too expensive. Yeah. Don't have great options, actually, because Rivian Pikeman... I mean, maybe by the time we're actually using him, we'll have enough damage. Yeah, let's go for it. Go here, and maybe instead of trying to disrupt this combo here, we'll instead try to single out this Curiosity Guard as the go-to target for us to get the death blow on that Rivian Pikeman. Okay, then it's segments, so yeah, it's looking a whole lot like the Boost Northern Realms Seesaw decks that we've used in the past. But now, yes, as we planned, we are capable of taking out that Curiosity Guard with the Rivian Pikeman. Well, yeah, with the Rivian Pikeman. But first we should use as many of our cooldown abilities as possible. We should also go Amphibious Assault here. Are we going to have enough damage to get a second Rivian Pikeman out here and take something out with that? It might be worth giving that a shot here. Let's go Rivian Pikeman. Put you over here. And now we take... Oh, before we do that. Do that. Do this, I suppose. Do that. Then hit you. Use a leader ability charge. And now do that. And ideally hit that Temerian Drummer as well. I mean, just get as many people on odd number as possible. But yeah, it would have been ideal if it was one of you. Okay. So yeah, we invested pretty heavily in that last turn right there. But it obviously it worked. We dissuaded them from playing any further. So we've won round 1. Rather convincingly, if I do say so myself. And most importantly, perhaps, we saved siege. We saved Raffard's Vengeance. Those are the big things that we really wanted to have in round 3. We get the echo copy of Amphibious Assault. That'll help. We just want to make sure that we have enough siege engines, of course, to trigger siege. And we have a couple here, so we should be fine. Griffin Witcher would have been the other card that I played in round 1 if it went longer. It's perhaps not as meaningful now that we no longer have Henselt in the melee row to go along with him. But also like to have some stuff for Raffard's Vengeance to play. So, I mean, getting Radovid would be really nice. What if we get rid of that Bombardment? And okay, there is Radovid. Perfect. So I think we're probably still try passing in round 2, since we did, of course, play one more card than them. So I think we keep it simple here. Okay, Trident Infantry, again, further indication that they're going to be focusing on as many boosts as possible. Okay, so now we get another Reinforced Ballista and a couple of Bombardments. I mean, we do have, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 Siege engines, and we'll get more from Siege, so using Bombardment as a finisher is not a bad idea. Alternatively, Reinforcements to get another copy of one of our Siege engines that we like. Redanian Archer gives us a little more flexible damage. Siege Master would basically give us a free card, which would be kind of useful. I think maybe we get rid of Griffin Witcher just because we have the, we'd like to focus on the siege engines, and Reinforcements does give a way to get more siege engines. Donimir is a bit of an issue. What with him being a defender. So I don't love that. But, okay. So we're probably looking to go Raffard's Vengeance immediately. Probably even before we go Siege. And I'm just trying to plan ahead to what we're going to put next to it and what have you. So we'd like to get that crew ability going as quickly as possible. And so playing a leader ability charge in that same row would definitely help to make that happen more quickly. Radovid as well, maybe that's the play. Either way, I think it is probably Raffard's Vengeance first. And we have stuff that needs to go range or melee row. War Chariot does vary a little bit depending on which row we put it in, but I think that hopefully we'll be able to trigger this crew on it, so we won't have to be all that picky. Oh, well, I don't like that. Okay, so, I mean, it's still a siege engine, so it is still going to make siege and our bombardments a little stronger, but of course it was one of, if not our best siege engine, so it is still a little painful. Also, what are we thinking we're going to get with Amphibious Assault? Probably a Redanian Archer. Or, I mean, could get another siege engine with Siege Tower if we really wanted to, but we do need some soldiers to mix in there. So, I mean, we have enough siege engines that we don't need to go straight into siege here, but they do have a card in the range row with Donimir that we can start to hit a little bit with the reinforced trebuchets that would spawn in from this, so it's kind of tempting. Why don't we... Let's get one more siege engine on the board first. Go with the Ballista in the range row so that it's on an even amount of power so that it gets boosted by Seesaw. Visigoda. Now that's an issue. That's a card we want to get rid of as quickly as possible because he is so good in this event. He is basically the centerpiece of their whole combo because he allows them to every single turn use those charges to make every single one of their units on even power. And if they have charges to spare, of course, they have another Trident Infantry or something like that, they can direct the boost there to get additional damage as well. So, now more than ever is definitely time, I think, to play Siege. And we still can't really break through Donimir here. Honestly, our best answer is the bombardments, and so we're probably now just looking to get our siege engines down as quickly as possible to trigger all that. And I guess we hit Margarita to keep her on an odd number here, because Donimir obviously has the armor and is on an odd number, so it's not really going to make much of a difference if we hit him right here and right now. But yeah, they're going to try to get Visigoda boosted up higher so that we have fewer ways, even if we do break through Donimir, to take out Visigoda. So it's going to be a real test. It's going to be a real test for sure. So, as for what we'd like to do now, I think we're probably looking to maybe get, well, I mean, Radovid to get crew would be nice, but I'm not sure we can afford that luxury at the moment. Honestly, War Chariot to move. Yeah, on the range row. Move an enemy unit to from the range row, Donimir, into the melee row. That's not a huge deal, but it does make Visigoda targetable, and it also means next time we use War Chariot, we can actually move Visigoda, where sure, he may still be protected by Donimir in the melee row, but he's row locked to the range row, so if he goes into the melee row, he becomes pretty much useless. So I think that's our big play here. Then obviously we play a siege engine on our next turn. We'll trigger the last round of our scenario, and that may be sufficient. I mean, probably not to get rid of Visigoda, but it will deal a decent chunk of damage. Okay, more boosts. And, well, they arguably should put that on the other side of Visigoda to double boost Visigoda, but they probably have plans to put a Trident Infantry in between those two. We know they have at least... They had one of them in deck. But okay, so... I think now we're... 2 turns for War Chariot. I mean, if we use leader ability charges, which we can get more of with Radovid, then we can just immediately move Visigoda, which honestly may be worth doing, because I think that's going to make a pretty big difference here. Immediately shutting down Visigoda, because that is, as I said before, it is absolutely their centerpiece. So I think we go for that, and we see where that leaves us. Let's try to set up the crews where possible. Where does it matter most? A little bit on the Reinforced Trebuchet, but probably more so the War Chariot, and not a huge deal for Battering Ram, so why don't we put you here? We'll do this. We'll do this. Oh, use this first. Do this. I wish you were a little bit faster. And then move you. So now, you are no longer capable of using any of those charges. So that should be a big difference maker on. Again, after spamming all those lead ability charges, obviously we could have used this a little bit of extra damage as well. But, so now, we have crew on the War Chariot. We can dump in the Siege Tower in between these two for another crew as well, or we can use reinforcements to get, what would we prefer? Maybe another Ballista. So yeah, that's exactly what I was saying they would do, is play Trident Infantry in between these two guys. So, now at least, yes, they have these big boosts going on, but, Visigoda is shut down. That's big. That is big. So, well, we also have Amphibious Assault to get. Another, either Redanian Archer if we are concerned about maintaining crew on more stuffs. But I don't think that's as big a deal as just getting siege engines down here. So let's go Siege Tower, I think. Or maybe even it's Amphibious Assault into... Where'd you go? Oh. I guess Battering Ram, for some reason I thought we still had a Ballista in here. We do not. So that's going to trigger our scenario. We then activate this for more stuffs. We hit somebody on an even amount of power, preferably, so you. And then, oh, move you away from Trident Infantry as well. Okay, Selkirk is a card that, yes, would also be useful to move, although it would take us a little bit of time to do that. So now let's go Battering Ram and just hit some peoples. And we have the choice now to go after whoever we'd like. How much damage is it? It's 3. So it would put Donimir onto an odd number, which is nice. I think we probably do that. We can move you back into the range row. We can damage... Oof. Actually, don't have a great target. Why don't we go for a bombardment here? See where that leaves us in terms of putting stuff on odd or even numbers. Still not great in terms of getting things, keeping things on an odd number. So Not loving it. Not loving it. Why don't we... I guess we hit Temerian Drummer. It quite literally makes 0 difference, because that'll get boosted back up. But, hey, actually, the damage from the Reinforced Trebuchet keeps it on number, so it's going to get destroyed now. Selkirk, who did they go for? One of the Battering Rams? I mean, it's not a huge deal. Blue Stripes Commando. It's a little bit surprising. We haven't seen much setup for that type of combo here just yet. So now, I mean, we could try to target that, but I'm not really sure it's going to make much of a difference here. So we can use War Chariot to get the bleed and the movements, which, is there anything that we're particularly concerned about? I mean, Selkirk's already done his thing, so yes, we can destroy Donimir, and we can move Selkirk. I mean, there's a very low chance they'll have a way to get a charge back on Selkirk, but I doubt they are about to play Viraxis. So I think what we do is probably just go move you. Yes. Let's actually hit you to get you onto an odd number. Sure, we'll move you because you're on an odd number and give you the bleed. And then let's use Bombardment. See where that leaves us. Oh, and sure, it does mean we technically have a charge to, I honestly didn't realize that we were able to hit ourselves, but end of our turn, it is capable of targeting us. Okay, Foltest plus Blue Stripes Commando is legitimately a very reasonable combo, but you, alas, did not put those in the correct place to make that an actual combo, and we could use War Chariot to shut you down here if we'd like. So, yeah, what is even... Oh, Seesaw will still occasionally boost you. Right. Okay, so I think what we do here is... Let's see. This is going to go down by Seesaw before anything else triggers, including Foltest. So, not so concerned about that. Foltest himself is fairly big, not sure we're going to be able to get rid of him. But, what if we start dealing more damage to you? We obviously don't want you on an even number. But, if we go Reinforcements and create another Reinforced Ballista, then that gives us more damage, which we can then use to poke you further. And let's move Foltest, and they realize we already had a pretty big lead there, and it was only going to grow. So there you have it. Damage Northern Realms beats boosting Northern Realms. Alright, so going up against Nilfgaard here, and they'll go first. Okay, so we have both King Henselt and King Radovid. That's great. We have Foltest Pride, but we do not have Raffard's Vengeance, so that's probably the card that we'll get with Henselt. Amphibious Assault is nice. No Siege, as in the scenario, notably. So that's probably the most notable exclusion right now. So why don't we try to maybe get rid of a Bombardment? We actually don't have a lot of Siege engines in our hand right now. There is Siege. Okay, so do we even have enough to trigger that? If we were to play Henselt, we would. But if we don't play him, then we don't. So why don't we get rid of a Griffin Witcher? Rayla is nice, but I'm actually thinking what we're going to do here in that case. Oh, we could Amphibious Assault into a Siege engine, I suppose. But I think what we do is we'll probably do Henselt and soldiers, primarily, in round 1, and focus on Siege and obviously the Siege engines in round 2. So I'm guessing that their deal is going to be that, since they're Nilfgaard, they obviously can use Cahir, who is absolutely amazing in this event because he can absorb all of the Seesaw boosts, but he does not absorb all the Seesaw damage, which makes him very effective. So, Imperial Practitioner suggests they're going for Assimilative Course, and what would we like to lead off with here? I was saying perhaps we start in round 1 with our humans rather than our siege engines. And soldiers are useful to pair along with those siege engines because they can help proc the crew abilities. But notably, the Griffin Witcher is neither a soldier nor a siege engine. So why don't we start with that? And yes, Henselt obviously is what we're planning to make our primary card in this round, our key piece. But since this is Nilfgaard we're going against here, and they could very well have a whole lot of luck, I don't want to rush him that much. So I just want to make sure that they don't immediately shut him down, and maybe we can bait out some stuff, or at least learn more about their deck before we play him. Like, Amphibious Assault tells us... Okay, so they look like they're an Imperial Practitioner spamming deck. That's an aggressive move. That's definitely an aggressive move. So, in that case, what does that change? I mean, what are they going to try to create a bazillion copies of? Well, we might be about to find out, right? So, I'm thinking what we might do is we'll go Rayla to the left of the Witcher. Then we'll put, on our next turn, Amphibious Assault, Temerian Drummer to get her inspired, to give her more damage. And then we'll play Henselt in between the Griffin Witcher and Rayla on our next turn. It means not a lot of time for Henselt, but again, given how I'm a little bit concerned about the damage, or rather the locking potential that they might have, since this is Nilfgaard, I think that's maybe the safest way to go about doing this. And that damage from the Griffin Witcher is not all that meaningful because it puts this Imperial Practitioner back on an even number. So it's going to get boosted by Seesaw unless they're about to trigger Assimilate, in which case it gets boosted up to a 5, and then it will go back down to a 4 at the end of their turn, which, yeah. As I was saying, it's definitely a Practitioner's deck. So now I was saying we go Amphibious Assault, and we get this Temerian Drummer, and you put that next to Black Rayla, because now Black Rayla is on an even number, which means she's going to get both boosted by Seesaw and then boosted by the Temerian Drummer, meaning she's going to get boosted by 2 at the end of this turn, making her inspired and maintaining that level of inspiredness. So this turn, just 1 damage, but that's probably fine, because that means we can actually get one of these Imperial Practitioners onto an odd number, and let's do that here as well. And then the plan was next turn to play Henselt between these two, because they both obviously have cooldowns. Okay, it's Vilgefortz. What have we... Cahir. Oh, okay, so yep. What was I saying before? We were expecting to see a lot of Cahir, so I think... Normally, Cahir would be a huge threat against Northern Realms if we were focusing primarily on our boosting. However, we are not doing that. We are primarily a damage deck. Of course, Rayla / really Temerian Drummer boosting Rayla is going to give us a fair bit of boost, along with Seesaw, and Henselt will as well. So that does make Cahir a little bit dangerous, but we do, of course, have probably the best counter for it in Northern Realms, other than just outright locking Cahir, moving all the Cahirs we'd like. So let's go Henselt here, and I think we might actually save Raffard's Vengeance. I think we might save it. So let's go in that case instead with maybe a Siege Tower. Maybe a Siege Tower, and put you here where you may have the opportunity to get a soldier on the other side at some point. Okay, then it's 2 damage, so we don't really want to disrupt the odd number on you, and so that will get destroyed by Seesaw on the next turn. I suppose we could have just outright removed an Imperial Practitioner with Rayla. Probably would have been preferable, but okay, that's not a huge deal, but it is going to get destroyed at the end of our turn here, and it does put this Imperial Practitioner out of the range where it immediately gets destroyed. So, that being said, we can just destroy this one with the combination of Griffin Witcher and Black Rayla, which, as I was saying before, is probably what we should have done on our previous turn. But, what are we looking for in addition to that? I mean, we could do Radovid. Is there any reason not to? I think we might want to save Redanian Archer for when we're doing all of our other siege stuff, so we have more opportunities for crew. We can put Radovid next to you, so we do get crew here. So then we just take you out altogether. And so we do have a pretty big lead here. However, it is worth noting that, of course, they are creating a whole bunch of the Cahirs. And so that is going to, at least in round 2, / probably round 3 as well, make matters a little bit trickier, but we're definitely going to need to save War Chariot in that case. So I think what we're looking to do here, I mean, we could arguably even pass right now, but we'd like to get Radovid's order ability in. So I think we maybe just use reinforcements as our throwaway of sorts, but to activate you, let's use the combination of you two to get you back down to an odd number. Activate Radovid, and then we'll do reinforcements on... These guys are they... Adrenaline 4? No, Adrenaline 3 is when they get locked. Yeah. I guess we'll still make another one. So that's probably going to be the last card that we play. At least we'd like for that to be the last card that we play. Okay, and they pass, so that's fine. We're actually winning on even, for what it's worth. Yeah, actually, come to think of it, I might not have played last turn had I realized that we were potentially going to win a card up. So we might have bailed them out a little bit, but... Anyways, we'll take the round 1 win on even. And we might even consider pushing a little bit in round 2. Again, we know they have a lot of Cahirs in their hand, or at least are about to draw into them. So that is very much their plan here. But our hope is that with a combination of damage from things like the Ballista and Foltest Pride and Griffin Witcher and Siege and Redanian Archer, we can either take them out or we can just move them out of the melee row because Cahir is row-locked the melee row, so he's useless when he gets put into the range row. So is there anything else that we'd like to switch up here? Not necessarily sure that Griffin Witcher is the best fit for us, because although it is a cooldown unit, it does have damage, it's not a soldier and it's not a siege engine, so it doesn't really help for siege and it doesn't help for crew abilities. Raffard's Vengeance was the card we were planning on getting with Henselt, but we did not choose to go that route, so it is important that we get it here. Now, the question is, do we bleed or not? Because we know they have some really valuable cards in their hand, and maybe we can trade some little cards for some of their big cards, like maybe we can force them into playing a Cahir. Like if we go with Redanian Archer, it's not one of our best cards, it's not bad, but if we can somehow manage to trade Redanian Archer for Cahir, that's probably worth doing. Alternatively, if we pass now, they need to play at least one card because we won round 1, and so we'll have double last say and 1 card advantage in round 3. So that's, I mean, that's pretty hard to say no to that. So I think we still pass here, but if we didn't have a really solid counter with something like War Chariot to move Cahir out from the melee row, then we would probably try to bleed it out. If they lock War Chariot, then things start to get interesting, but they go with Sire. I was not checking to see what they moved back into their deck, but we know they obviously had a whole bunch of the Imperial Practitioners there, so it's possible that's what they went for. Okay, so I like the Siege Master. That is basically just free points. And what do we have left? Battering Ram, Siege Tower. We don't really like Siege Tower if we're expecting for them to load up on a bunch of Cahirs. Okay, we don't have any Siege Towers in hand, so we probably want to keep it that way. To be honest, we probably want to keep it that way. So I'm thinking we go probably Raffard's Vengeance first, or maybe Redanian Archer first, and then Raffard's Vengeance. And that way, we can pretty much immediately get the crew to trigger on Raffard's Vengeance. I think this is what we're looking for here. So do they lead off with a Cahir? So yeah, the other thing is we definitely want to get War Chariot out here quickly. Open Force, hold on, what are you switching? Oh, there's still a Cahir in our graveyard? Presumably that's what you're going for. Yeah, so it's a whole lot of Cahirs. How many Imperial Practitioners did they have? I think they had at least 3. They might have moved one of them back into their deck with a Sire. So that would mean, what, 3 or 4 from all the Imperial Practitioners, and then the one that they just got from our graveyard back into their deck. So on the order of 4 or 5 Cahirs is what we're talking about. And so, again, technically the best counter is War Chariot to move it out of the melee row. I'm not sure we want to show War Chariot just yet. I think we might want to wait for them to play a Cahir first, because it does have Zeal, so we can immediately move one out of the melee row as soon as they play it on our next turn. And that way at least, even if they do have lock, they can't prevent us from doing every last War Chariot play that we want to make. Man, I think, so yeah, that probably confirms that a Sire was to get one of these Imperial Practitioners back into their deck. So, yes, I think that means, what did we say, 5 Cahirs in that case? So, it's a lot. It's a whole lot. So, we could go War Chariot right now. However, I think we save it until, as soon as they play a Cahir, we're going to want to put it down. But it's not yet urgent. So I think we probably go Raffard's Vengeance now. Raffard's Vengeance now, because of course the earlier we play this, the more cards we're going to get. But remember, we're going to get the Siege Master out as well. And so it's going to get someone to the left of whatever siege card we play. So let's go here. That way we have the crew, and we get Bombardment. That's fine. Let's poke you to get you on an odd number. Okay, see, exactly. There's the lock. So we baited it out on Raffard's Vengeance, which obviously is a great card. We would love to have had it available to us, but at the end of the day, it is going to be more important that War Chariot remains unlocked. So that's one of the other purposes that Raffard's Vengeance served for us there. And similarly, Foltest Pride would be useful too. We also would kind of like to get Siege down here relatively quickly as well, because they do have some units in the range row. So when we spawn in that Reinforced Trebuchet, it's a point per turn. But the more Siege Engines we get out there preemptively, the more damage this Bombardment is going to deal once we trigger the final stage. So as long as we're playing a Siege Engine every turn, technically it nets out to still 1 additional point of value. So I think we still go Foltest Pride here. And the one issue is that now we have lost our prime positioning here. Our best location. Keep you all on odd numbers here. But we've lost our best location for the crew. We have another soldier. We can use Rivian Pikeman to flank you with soldiers. It's more lock. Wow. So, yep, again, we're playing our big siege engines here, but we have deliberately not yet played our biggest one, which would be the War Chariot. So, I think now we go... We're probably going to want to save a bunch of leader ability charges for it as well. Might be siege time, because, yeah, how many... We have 3 siege engines in hand, so technically we could play one of them now if we really wanted to. How are we looking in terms of cards we'd like to dump? If we play it in the melee row, we could use that damage plus Redanian Archer damage to destroy this Imperial Practitioner, which might be kind of nice. That might be kind of nice. Alternatively, as long as it doesn't get boosted at the end of their... Let's go range row. We'll go range row. It means that as long as we hit you, and you don't trigger the Assimilate on your next turn, then this will get destroyed, but I'm guessing that they will try to trigger it. And the Redanian Archer was pretty useless to us because it had lost all of its armor. What are they going to transform into? Ballista. Another Ballista. Okay. And yes, that did trigger the Assimilate, so we did well there. But now I think it is time to go for Siege, because we now have exactly 2 Siege... Yeah, exactly 2 Siege Engines remaining. So we need to play it before we play any of these Siege Engines, and as we were saying, War Chariot is going to be something we're going to want to play as soon as they go with Cahir. And I think, given how they have 4 cards here, it may be that every remaining card in their hand is Cahir, because we obviously haven't seen one yet. So I think this is just about exactly the timing we're looking for. And what would we like to hit? I mean, we can... suppose we should damage you. And then we could get you off cooldown, but they have a bunch of odd-powered cards, so I don't think that's particularly urgent right now. Although this is going to hit something, and unfortunately put you back on an even number. Yeah, and they are going to probably get rid of this. Fair play. Fair play. There's Cahir. Yeah, so I think they're all going to be Cahirs now. And so now we have still some damage, but most importantly, I think it is time to go with the War Chariot, and we'd like to play you in the range row to move Cahir, and we are now pretty confident that they have run out of lock. They had a whole lot of it early on, but we baited all that out, and that is going to be crucial here. We would kind of like to have crew, but we have lost all of our soldiers here unless and until we use leader ability. So let's go War Chariot on the end, and then we have the option to go with Rivian Pikeman next to it right here, and then leader ability will allow us to get a soldier on either side. Then Reinforced Ballista, let's poke Cahir, get him on an odd number, because again, that is a card that is no longer all that threatening in their range row, because he can't get the boosts from us. But if they have a way to move, which they may, then that could become a factor, and they're going to try to single out War Chariot, of course. But now we can... Trying to figure out, should we prioritize getting this down, off cooldown, and just move this Cahir, or do we have enough damage that we are actually fine with just going with Bombardment, or playing this Reinforced Ballista to trigger Bombardment? I think we do go and at least... I think we do this. Technically, we did not want to put that there, but... Get the damage. Get some more damage. Leader ability. And... now either poke you or... I think move. And then poke. So... I'd say I shouldn't have placed the Reinforced Ballista there because my intention was to have a volunteer on one side of War Chariot, but actually they got rid of our other soldiers anyway. Oh no, we were going to play Rivian Pikeman next to him. So yeah, it would have been possible to get crew. Would have been nice, would have given us the bleed damage as well, although that may not be all that necessary here, because now we can still get Rivian Pikeman. And that's a little bit slow. It might make sense. We are definitely going to lose War Chariot on this turn. So I think we're going to want to use leader ability charges now. And that means let's damage. And I guess still damage. Then leader ability. Damage. Damage. Leader ability. And move. Damage. Damage. Play Bombardment. Which would have given us more damage as well, but they don't have any units anymore. It's another Cahir. Something tells me that is not going to matter, because we have a 29-point lead. Enough damage to remove it, especially if you consider our leader ability as well, and Bombardment, so, we'll spare them. And take the win. So there's a look at a Northern Realms siege deck for the new Seesaw seasonal event. If you liked the video, then make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and leave a comment down below to let me know which other cards, archetypes, and factions you'd like us to experiment with next. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.